100-meter water resistance, and a unidirectional bezel. You can even use it for diving. But let's focus on the function of the watch. We're going to go through all of the functions of the AEROSPACE. We're going to talk a little bit about how to cycle between them, get the most out of this watch, and if you already own one, we're going to show you how to tap the potential inside it. And if you do plan on getting an AEROSPACE, come back to this video because it might just prove the lifeline you need to unlock the secrets of this Breitling caliber 79 movement. So first things first, I want to get back to the basic screen, and I want to show you the three fundamental functions of the crown. Now by turning it quickly, you can see the mode indicator at 12 o'clock and the function at 6 o'clock. It's an analog digital, and all of the secondary functions appear on this combination of top and bottom LCD display. Now, actually I should note that they are digital displays here, and as I rapidly cycle the crown, I shift between the second time zone. Right now we're looking at the chronograph. Now we're looking at the alarm. Now we're back to the main screen, and I want to emphasize that you can cycle it both ways. So if I turn the crown clockwise, now I can get back to the alarm, I can get back to the chronograph, I can get back to the second time zone. And I also want to emphasize that it's the speed of the rotation that activates the selection function. So if you turn it slowly, you're actually going to get something very different, which is the backlight. NVG compatible, as Breitling tells us. We'll get to that in a moment. We'll do a little loom shot, but let's start with the basics. Now when you set this watch up with a new battery, there are a whole suite of initialization functions, from synchronizing the analog and the digital to setting the language. We're not going to do that because the caliber 79, based on the long-running ETA thermal line series, the 988-452 in this case, is a true high-precision Swiss movement with 7 joules. It's thermocompensated. It is a COSC chronometer. It's very delicate. You shouldn't be trying to swap a battery in this. It's not a G-Shock. Leave that to a watchmaker. He'll handle the setup. I'm going to show you how to use the watch once it's set up. Now the first thing you see is the analog time. Analog time without a digital display is going to maximize the life of the battery. If you want to go 5 years between battery replacements and overhauls, this is the way to do it. Don't use the minute repeater, don't use the backlight, don't use any of the secondary functions, just leave it on your local time. Now I'm going to jump back one function. Now you can see the digital time that matches the analog time. You can also access the minute repeater. When you're looking at the time screen, you press the crown in, so there you go. So we're looking at 24-hour time because I have it set to that, but you're 3 hours past 12 plus 2 quarters, that's the half hour, plus 5 minutes on top of that. That's the minute repeater function. You can do that when you're looking at the time in digital and analog form, or solely in analog form. Now jumping forward, we're going to cycle through the functions. I'm looking at the alarm. The alarm right now is set to 4 o'clock. It's in 24-hour time format. If I want to set the alarm, now I pull the crown to its second position, and this is used universally for setting functions on the caliber 79. Now I turn it, and you can see I'm decreasing the time that the alarm will go off earlier and earlier in the morning. By turning it counterclockwise, I'm moving the alarm to a later point in the day. When I decide I've got the right time, I know when I want to wake up bright and early, because after all this is an aerospace and I'm a pilot, I've got places to be. I press the crown back and the alarm's set. I continue to cycle through the functions now. Let's cycle through the functions. We're on the chronograph. The chronograph is used by first cycling to the chronograph by rapidly turning the crown and then pressing it. Now, the chronograph will run out to 48 hours. That's its limit. You can time up to 48 hours, but also intervals as small as 1/100th of a second. So it's quite versatile in its scope. Now, to stop it, essentially treat it like a mono pusher. You press the crown again, and you can recommence by pressing the crown briefly. Now, if you want to reset it, what you do is you press and you hold the crown. And when you press and hold the crown, it resets. Continuing on our tour of the function suite, we turn rapidly. And now we're looking at the second time zone. Now, the second time zone can be expressed in 2 different fashions. I'm former Navy, so I like to see it in 24-hour time, so I've got it set up as such. But what I can do is I can actually press the crown in, and I can reconfigure it if I want to see 3:37 p.m. You know you're in that 2 times 12 time format because you can see that little P next to the 3. You see that? That little 3 next to the P at the hour indicates that you are in 2 times 12 and it is the afternoon. I can check it by pressing once, press twice, and I jump back to 24-hour time. Continuing our little grand tour, you can see this is actually a countdown timer. So the alarm itself can be set to a time of day, and it will activate at that time of day. The countdown timer is different. This is like an egg timer. You set an initial period of time by pulling out the crown, and now you can advance it however much you want. You start with a large number, and then you work down, and you can turn it backwards and work from the other end if you want to build up from 0 minutes. So you can work from either end, whether you want to work from 0 minutes and build the time up, or start from 24 hours and then cycle the time down. Either way, it's very flexible, intuitive, and it's simply a matter of pulling the crown out, turning it clockwise or counterclockwise. I push it back in, we continue. Now we're looking at the semi-perpetual calendar. I called it that because it's not a perpetual and it's also more than an annual. Since this is a leap year, it's worth noting that if you own an AEROSPACE, it's the one time you're going to have to make an adjustment because it can handle the jump from February to March in a normal year. But in the leap year, it needs a little help advancing past that February 29th to March jump. So you will have to correct it once, and that's done like so. You pull the crown out, and now it shows you the language. It speaks Spanish, it speaks English, it speaks German, it speaks French. So right now, I'm in the United States, and I'm a native English speaker. I speak very poor French, so I'm going to leave it on English. And I can cycle from Friday back to Thursday, or if I choose, I can cycle forward to Saturday. But we're going to keep it on Friday and stay on track. So Friday the 22nd, and it will keep track through 1,460 days right up until the leap year of the 4th year of the leap year cycle and that February 29th reckoning. That's when you're going to have to reset it manually. Continuing on, you see a little bit of a curious function, which is actually the date and constant seconds. That's an interesting setup. I'm not sure why you would prefer to see it, but if it's your preference, you can see it. What's important for the sake of setting the watch is that this is the screen where you select the date. The prior screen was the day and the date. That's where you select the day. Now, I pull the crown out, and you can see I have the month 1, and I have the date 22. But I can cycle back to the 21st, forward to the 23rd. Let's keep it set correct. Push the crown in, and now it retains whatever setting I gave it. Continuing on, we're back to the analog-digital display combination. Now, I want to emphasize that if you do want to set the time conventionally, you just pull the crown out. Now you watch, I rotate the crown. I can manually step the hands like so. That makes it easy to set the time. It is the screen where I can see the digital display that matches the time at center, and you'll see the little T denoted in the upper display to let you know that you are in time setting mode. Now I push the crown back in, and now my time is set. And now you can see the time is stabilized and set. Now if the time is flashing, that represents what's known as the end of life indicator. If the time is flashing when you're in this mode, it means that the watch needs to be taken in for service and a battery replacement imminently. So it has that little cue. It's important to note that the battery has a service life between 2 and 5 years, and this is going to be heavily dependent on whether you use alarms, the minute repeater function, whether you like to see the display or you just leave the analog display as is. If you use the backlight frequently, it's going to run down the battery. I do want to give you a little overview of the backlight function because there are 2 ways to use this crown. Spin it quickly, we've seen you cycle the functions. Spin it slowly and you actually get a soft blue glow for about 6 seconds that represents an NVG compatible, that's night vision goggle compatible backlight function. It works without NVGs, but it's interesting that we have that dual capability. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to kill the lights and I'm going to come right back. So you can see the watch does feature a conventional Luminova luminescent dial with numerals, hands, and of course that unidirectional pearl at the top of the bezel. But when I turn the crown slowly, now you can see that the digital display lights up. I turn it quickly, and you can see that, let me get the light back, I can actually cycle between the functions. Now I'm on the alarm while using the backlight to keep the watch visible. And it's just a matter of slowly turning the crown as opposed to